somebody calls, we listen. Active listening is half the work. So that the person can structure just by talking to us, and structure their thinking, their vision for the future. They begin to want to do something just because somebody's listening. It's very important. Then we try to show people what choices they have according to our experience, where to go, who to talk to. We give them legal support. We explain to them how the law works and the times, because Greek law is very slow. It takes a lot of time. And also we give them psychological support. If they need to live, to coexist with an abuser, we give them conflict resolution techniques over the phone, how to avoid getting beaten up and how to avoid getting their lives in jeopardy, how to confront and create a peaceful situation to de-escalate the conflict in a way. Ever since we started, we had a bottom-up approach. Like the women who were the poorest, the most tormented, had 9 children or had 8, or I don't know, but they didn't have 8 at that time, it wasn't an issue yet. But the more problems, the more it was a priority for us. So the organizations that joined the network at the time were single-parent organizations, the women from the north of England where all the cuts, the mines had closed down, and there were about 250,000 jobs lost, quite large unemployment there. Women from Portugal who were working as servants to the rich north of Europe. And although we were all European, some were more European than others, the usual thing. So we found out that in the rich countries like Germany, for example, women pensioners were not doing well at all. They had a lot of problems. They were not happy. Their life was very difficult at that time. Also, women in Holland, which was one of the rich countries, the pensioners had very low pensions. If you wanted to buy, one pensioner that we met, she needed to buy glasses, and she ate little, so she could have the money to buy the glasses, and she lost 8 kilos in order to buy a pair of glasses. So we found out it wasn't just south-north. It was living in the towns. It was quite an issue in the north as well, and some women in the south of Europe, although they had less money, they lived better than some women in the north with more money, because everything was much more costly and their life was lonely, and a lot of women were taken to centers for the elderly, which were not so good sometimes. So we found out about all the women in Europe, and about migrant women, and about the issues of women's family reunification. And so when we got into the issues of violence, we more or less knew what violence meant for every different group of women. It wasn't women and violence, but first of all we saw that violence was everywhere, and then that if a woman had to face violence, it was a death trap if she was poor.
Now, what are the politicians' responses when you go to them and say, bring up the issues with what the victims bring to you? How has the general response been from members of parliament and stuff like that?
Well, at European level, we had quite a good effect actually, because we managed to have equality promoted by the European Parliament mostly. The European Parliament has no decisive powers. It is the Council that decides, but the European power sets the horizon in a way, so puts forward the political issues. And we had a lot of support by the European parliamentarians. I think sometimes they call it a talking shop and doesn't do much, etc. But for us, it proved that it was a very good political talking shop, because it actually was the body that promoted the issues. And sometimes we had the council and not paying any attention to women's issues, and the European Parliament supporting us. It is very difficult to work in the country with these issues, no political party sees them as priority. Um, some people pretend they do when it's election time, but few of them really follow up on their promises. Um, Sometimes you get somebody, who's willing to help, and we're happy. You get a good minister for equality. We have here a secretariat for equality in Greece, general secretariat for equality. But it is not a strong secretariat. It is always dependent on the ministries. So even if the secretary wants to do something, it depends on the minister, really. Now we have a secretary who comes from the women's movement, and she has worked as a university professor, teaching on women's issues. So she's quite aware and quite good. But there's nobody to support her really, because we haven't seen much. We have seen an SOS line starting, which was good all over the country. But we are suspecting that the women are hired for 8 months only, the women answering the phone. What will happen after 8 months? They will fire them and hire other women so that they don't get a permanent job, which means that as soon as they will have some experience, it's a very difficult job answering the phone. So, it's the other person's life and it's their well-being, and so once they get to know how to do it, they will be fired. Somebody else will be hired. Well, let's see. We hope to have something permanent and to build on this experience. We are in a position to know how difficult it is to build on an experience, because when we have new volunteers, they stay and work with us for a while, and they have very special training and seminars, and it is not enough to have degrees. Of course, degrees are very important, but the special training is also very important. And the most important thing is experience. Otherwise, and also to have support. You cannot answer the line and talk about such difficult issues without having special support. So I'm getting supported by a psychiatrist. I support other women. We have a psychologist who supports others. Somebody supports the psychologist. We all get support so that we don't get traumatized and we don't get a burnout effect. On the contrary, we want people who are professionals, like psychologists, sociologists, etc., to learn and be able to be better at their jobs when it comes to professional work and they leave the network or at the same time. We want them to be better professionals, stronger as personalities, to have a good effect on their personal life, the fact that they are dealing with pain, not to affect them in a traumatic way, but to actually build their resilience in their personal life. Getting worse and worse, I'm sure about that. The shelters have closed down. The NGOs give no support. I'm sure it'll be worse. Things how worse. Unless, they find petrol under Crete or gas, whatever they're talking about now, or there's some miracle. I don't see that these policies are leading us anywhere. I'm really very worried, and I'm worried because I can see how people suffer right now. We have multiple phone calls of people who are desperate. They don't know what to do.